Okay, this is the fun part. The part where you kind of pretend like you know how to put it back together, but you don't, and you kind of just make it up as you go. I need to pull all these seals out though. I can clean it a little bit better. None of these really leaked, or I don't think they did. Yeah, I need to clean in here pretty good. Oh, don't look bad. I think there's an O-ring in here. Oh. Yeah, there's a small O-ring in there too. I think that's all of them. So I'll take it over there to the parts washer and try getting the silicone, the rest of the silicone off and the rest of this oil off of it. And we can start putting it back together. Okay, first things we need to do is get these O-rings off this here shaft. There seems to be 4 of them. I wonder if this one's going to be tricky. Maybe. And it broke. That's good. Here's our 4 new ones. I guess I'll just work my way down. Alright, we got all those on. Put a little bit of oil on all these seals before I put them in there. This goes in first. We got to lube that case up a little bit too. Feels good. Okay. Let's see. I dropped this thing in there. Then we can follow that up with this bearing and roller. Make sure that feels good. This magnet goes here. Kind of a bad spot for it, but that's where it goes. I'm going to put this on here. I'm not real for sure. Like this here shaft, we can slide it in. It should help keep everything aligned. Yep. I might have to take those back out. Okay, let's get this thing in here. See how hard it is to get in there. Okay. Let's see. This needs to go in. We got to change this seal out. I don't have that one up there. So I'll get a snap ring. I'll put it in later in case I have to take something apart. Okay. So something we've got to probably tackle now is this little pawl thing that I mentioned earlier. The thing about it is it goes inside this housing, and when you pull this shaft out, that pump can move. I'll try to show you where it goes here. You see that little cutout? It looks kind of shiny right now, but it actually fits up in there. I might drop it. Yep, just sits right there. Yep. Oh, I got it in there that time. Yeah, you kind of just have to work it around and make sure everything's lined up. It's kind of tricky, but if you kind of process on how it goes, it'll go in. I am gonna have to pull these back out and Loctite them before I get everything assembled. But we can get all the gears and stuff in there before I pull those out. Well, maybe. Might block them. We'll see. So that one's in. That one's in. I believe I can look down through this hole. Yep. If you look down through this hole, which is where this piece would go, you can see that little pawl in there to make sure you have it lined up. So next we're going to get that shaft in there. Put a little oil on that. And it goes in here. Okay, we got that in there with the seal, so we need to put that snap ring in there. Alright. Now that goes there. grab my axle. I got a new bearing for it. Okay, got my new bearing on the axle, followed by a shim and a new axle seal. Oopsie. Actually, what I'll do is I'll get that bearing and seal in there, and then I'll slide that axle in through the back. Might be easier, I'm not real for sure. I don't know, getting that bearing on the axle is easy, so we'll just have to see how this works. I think this is going to slide right in after I tap on it. I don't think it's pressed. Yep, it did. Went right in. Okay. Followed by that shim and the oil seal. I'm guessing this has to go down enough to get a circlip or a snap ring in it. Nice. So I'm thinking when you put this axle in there, you might want to just keep it rotating slightly. Hopefully the lip of the seal doesn't fold over on itself. Nice. Let me get a seal in here. And a snap ring, I believe. Yeah, a seal and a snap ring going here too. I guess I was wrong. It just gets a seal and not a snap ring. So I'll just tap on until it's seated. So I'm going to get this hub on there just to help hold that axle in. So here where this oil pump is, there's this little seal. And we got to put these two little plastic seals in that we pulled out earlier with that tap. Yeah, I think that's it for the inside. I'll just have to clean this mating surface off one more time and then cover it up with some silicone. Clamp her shut. But I'm going to go over it one more time, make sure I didn't forget anything. Alright, there's not a lot of light over here, but I got all this wiped down with parts cleaner. I'm going to go put this Right Stuff silicone all over the mating surface and where this oil pump sits on the case. This bearing keeps falling out of the case. But if I put it there, it'll make it even harder. We'll see. Okay, I think I got it there. I'm gonna get some bolts. Bolts started to help keep it from coming up or moving around while I get it the rest of the way. Well, everything feels good. Let's hope we done it right. I'm gonna let that silicone sit up overnight, and then we can put oil in it, prime it, get it going. So while we're waiting on everything to dry up, we can go ahead and get this little bracket back on here. Which it kind of has some adjustment that you'll do, I guess, when the mower's running. There's the pulley and the fan going back on. I'm not rushed to get this thing done. It's the middle of January. I'm not rushing. I'm just kind of anxious to see if it still leaks oil. I mean, if I have to pull it back apart, I will. But I'm hoping I did it right the first time. this here is the final piece, which was for the emergency brake, followed by this little E-clip. I think that's it. I mean, I can go ahead and get this thing put up on the mower. Which would be a huge step forward, because I can fill it up when it's already installed, right? So I guess I'm going to do that. So we're kind of waiting on some parts for them hydrostatic transaxles. So I'm going to go ahead and do just the tune-up kit, which is oil, filter, spark plugs. I think that's all. But go ahead and get this oil draining. It doesn't look like as much oil is coming out as I would expect. I'll have to get the mower a little more level, but I mean, honestly, it's pretty clean though. Definitely seen worse, but I'll let that drain out as much as it can. We have these same NGK plugs going back in here. I've already looked at this. It's pretty bad. Good thing we have the new one in there. I'm gonna clean that up. Check this out. It's pretty bad. We got some more off of it here. I think we will get a little more performance out of it with the new filter. I'll get that cleaned up. We'll get the new one back on. Nice. I did get this cleaned up, and I got in here cleaned up pretty good. Probably should have looked into seeing if this thing even needed an oil change. When's the last time he changed it? Actual Kawasaki oil. I'm going with the 1040. Let's get this fuel filter changed out. Looks pretty, looks original. I'm sure it's got some age to it. Some of these lines feel a little wore out too. I might have one of those. I might change that. Okay, we got the maintenance side of that done with the oil filter, air filter, spark plugs, and the fuel filter. So now I can get the new exhaust on. I'll show you that. And we get that new exhaust bolted down, then I can bolt the engine back down. So originally I was wondering if I could weld this one back up. It's split down the seam here. But it kind of sounds a little hollow. And it's about half a pound lighter than the original. So I'm thinking just with heat and the rust, it's probably blown out some of the baffling. So we'll go ahead and put the new one on there. We got it. So let's get that bolted up. So to save you all the headache, I already got the transmission up in a spot and the bolts and nuts started. So let's have to go under here and draw them all up. Let's see if I remember how this goes. get this spring put back on this tensioner. It might be a little tricky. That's that one that was seized up. I think it goes right here from that eye to this one. So before I tighten this up, I need to make sure the belt is actually on all 3 pulleys. Well, 4 technically. So I'm gonna check that, and then I'll get a wrench and we'll do the belt tension. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably supposed to be some sort of spec on how tight that should be, but I don't know it. And honestly, if I think it's slipping, I'll tighten it up. And if it's too tight and breaks, I'll get a new belt. It looks like the original anyways. I'm not for sure about that, but it's a possibility it's the original. So now I need to get, I think, this parking brake bracket put on here and adjust the parking brake. I'm not real for sure that it was working when I got the mower over here. Alright, the last thing we need to do is just get these little oil filter guards put back on. And I think I'll be done under here. So I've got that all mounted back up. So basically what I got to do now is just get the oil lines put back on into the reservoirs and make sure that they're full of fluid, and then I can bleed them off. Assuming they bleed good and they ain't leaking, we can get the tires and everything thrown back on and get this thing back together. Okay, we got that axle put on there, and so what I did off camera, well, I put this little back piece back on, which holds these fluid reservoirs for the hydrostatics. Both of those are new, along with new tubing. But what I did is I went ahead and attached the tube here. That's where it goes. And then I'll mark it and cut it so I know where it needs to be on here. All right, we're almost done here. One of the last things I need to do is get this engine fired up, get it to operating temperature, and then I can go ahead and get these hydrostatics, bled off, make sure there's no air in them. I have had the reservoirs filled up overnight, and I think everything's full, other than they might get some air bubbles while I'm working these sticks back and forth. I'm not going to put the tires on just yet because I can, work the levers without the whole machine going forward and backwards. So let's go ahead and get this thing fired up, and we'll get started on that. So I went ahead and got the ROPS, or the rollover protection, put back on. The next thing I need to do is put on the back guard, the one that covers up the exhaust and the engine back here. I have it wiped down, it's ready to go back on, and then I can mount them reservoirs to it. So basically I got it all wrapped up. I got this back plate tightened up, and I have these reservoirs mounted. I had been running it. I got all the air out of the system, so when everything cools down, I'll check the fluid on those. They need to be, I don't know, maybe about 1/2 inch up, which is like the bottom quarter of the reservoir. What I need to do now is get the wheels on. I got both belts put on. It should be about ready to go. Okay, I've ripped this thing around the snow a little bit. It's doing great. It's got a lot of power, runs good. Everything seems to be working. I will let it cool off and check the fluids one more time. But I think it's ready to go. It's a good running mower, for sure. But now that we got that done, I can move on to another project. I gotta take this one back. One thing that I would have liked to do is probably replace the seat. It's a little rough and probably gets wet if it rains, but those are really expensive, and I don't know that I can justify spending the money on just a seat. That's something I'll ask them about. But anyways, now that I got this one done, I can move on to another project. It's good to see that it all turned out pretty good. So other than that, I ain't got no issues and it's ready to go. That's the end. Thank you.